Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Today we are talking about tax, and I personally am delighted because I care about this country, I care about the future for our kids, and if you care about those things, you need to care about tax. Because there are major issues with our tax system, and those, for me, are three that really stand out. Firstly, that it's harder as a young person today to get ahead than it has been in the past, and I don't like that. Secondly, because our companies aren't growing their productivity as much as they could, which means that we can't pay and grow our services to this country as much as we can, and I don't like that. And finally, because we need to deal with our climate change, and we need to do this in the cheapest way possible, but our tax system stops us doing that well. And again, I don't like that. Starting with intergenerational equity. A young person came to me and he said, I've worked hard, at school, at uni, I've got a great job, I've got a $50,000 HECS debt, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get a home. And the truth is that young people today are having a harder time than previous generations, and it's just not fair. If you look at some recent, in about the last 15 years, a family headed by someone who's older, over 65, their wealth increased over a decade by about 50%. But a family headed by a young person under the age of 35, their wealth pretty much didn't move. Now, I don't think that was the intention of the Australian people, when they elected and supported the governments of the past and supported their tax policies, but that is the system that we've got, and it just isn't fair to young people. We're seeing now older generations, over 65, paying now only 17% of them are paying any tax, while previously it was 27%. Two households living next door to each other. If you're retired, you're paying about half the amount of tax that you would be with the same household on the same amount of income, around 100 grand. I just don't think that's fair, and the tax system is important to addressing that. Secondly, the tax system is important in addressing growth and productivity. Because, frankly, if we can keep our productivity growth up, if we can raise it from where it has been, we will have billions extra in our coffers, and that will make a huge difference to the services that we can provide. But we have falling foreign direct investment. We have low and not growing R&D investment. We are a net capital exporter, which we're sending more money overseas than we are investing in Australian companies, and our corporate tax rate at the medium and large companies is frankly not competitive with the rest of the OECD. That matters. We need to address that. And finally, climate. Climate change is an issue that thankfully this parliament has taken seriously and is taking real action on. However, our tax system is not underpinning that in the way that it should be. And certainly things like the fuel tax credit and our failure to deal with the cost of carbon and how to price carbon effectively mean that we are not doing everything we can to make that transition as cost-effective and as efficient and as strong as we possibly can. So that is the sort of changes that I think we should be contemplating in the tax system. Now, the government has argued, or members of the government have argued, that they are doing tax reform. And to be honest, my beef is not to say, what you're doing here and there. Those aren't important changes. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. Some of them, there are issues in the margins for me. It's not to criticise that, because I know tax reform is hard. But the point I'm trying to make is that what you are doing is not enough. And frankly, that is a symptom of the last election where, the political wedging and the political culture in this place means that, the only thing seems that anyone wants to say about tax is absolutely nothing if they can possibly get away with it. That's what we did in the last election. We cannot do that in the next election. The coalition has said they are going to put tax on the agenda for the next election, and I think that is a very good thing. My point to the coalition is make it worth it. Address those massive issues that we're facing. Let's not have another sugar hit, which is just tax cuts, without actually the reform that can help underpin change on the major issues that our country is facing. And the Labor Party, build on what you have done. I know you're very proud of what you have done in this last change, but build on it so that we do address those major issues that our country is facing, because they are simply you have not gone far enough if you care about those three big issues, about intergenerational equity, about productivity and about effective climate action. And finally, on the rule in and rule out. This is unhelpful. I've sat through question time yesterday and had that rule in, rule out. If we're going to make tax reform, we must do it together as a coalition across the parliament. Thank you.